Well, the usual home comforts for Plymouth Argyle are beginning to turn into a bit of a nightmare. It's 3 in a row without a win, thanks to a loss against Wimbledon on Saturday.
Brilliant ball through by Ibrahim to lie in on goal, finishes it inevitably.
Yeah, a 4th home loss already this season for Argyle. A 7th defeat in total, which is already one more than the last time that Argyle played at this level, and we're only 12 matches into the season. Not an ideal start, and also the home form becoming a bit of a problem of late, that is for sure. This is Argyle Analysis, and we will be looking back at Saturday's 2-1 loss to AFC Wimbledon, a first win for the Dons at Home Park in 9 seasons. To help me do it, as ever, is Aaron Cusack. And, well, we saw just from the little highlights there that it kind of all started so well for Argyle. However, that didn't continue.
It didn't. You probably couldn't have written the script, Charlie, in the opening 10 minutes. It kind of went to plan, got an early goal. We assumed that Wimbledon would come in, probably sit deep and try to frustrate. We got the early goal, and then it didn't really kick on, did it? And that seems to be the theme at the minute, a real frustration, especially at home. And we seem to have not kicked on since the really impressive performance at Burton a few weeks ago.
Yeah, it is a 3rd game in a row, as I mentioned, without a win, which would be disappointing. However, we mentioned the goal. It did start so well, and Laurent Talay is a man in form at the minute.
He is, yeah. He's arguably, one of the form strikers in the country. And he just seems to have settled in so well. And there are moments where he gets into a position and you just know the outcome. And that was very similar to his finish against Stockport. And he keeps, scoring week in, week out, and we want to keep him in form for as long as possible. But I know that his teammates will want to be supporting him to add to the goals and points on the board, which at the minute it's not quite materialising.
Let's take a look at it now. Here it is, the perfect start. 3 in his last 3 games.
Yeah,
so I think it's 7 in total for Argyle.
Yeah, he's definitely hit the ground running, and he's a man in form. And as soon as he gets into this position here, there's only one outcome.
Yeah,
it's inevitable. It's just the outcome that he knows. He wants that freedom to run into, and that left foot is so cultured. It just slots it in beautifully. And as soon as you get that moment there, if we can get him into this position more often in games, then we can start to win games by 2 and 3. But just on half-time, I felt Wimbledon were coming back into the game, and Big Gill with the header there. We'll talk a little bit more in detail a bit later on that moment there. But he just out-muscled Ross, I think it was, as the ball was swung in. It was right on half-time as well, so it really took the wind out of Argyle's sails. And then 5 or 6 minutes into the second half, an error by Bradley Ibrahim, and then Marcus Brown following up good work by Jake Reeves to put them 2-1 up. And at this stage, whilst that's really disappointing, it's an error, it happens, there was plenty of time to get back in the game, but unfortunately we never really looked like we were going to get anything from it, and that was the biggest disappointment, I think.
Wimbledon, we spoke about it in the build-up, are a team that were banging form. They were 2nd, I think, in the form table, behind Bolton on goal difference.
Yeah.
were unbeaten in 5. They'd won 4 of those. They'd won their last 2 on the road. So yeah, it was not going to be as easy as the first 6 minutes, showed. And they did start to work their way back into the game, didn't they?
They did, and what they did is they just went really direct, and that they played to their strength. They were a very efficient team, no airs and graces, kick it forward. But what they did really well is the players ahead of the ball identified it. So Seddon, as it went to kind of, they were starting to get a foothold in the game, Seddon is just going to play a ball forward. So there's nothing fancy about this, but the players above him will just run into that space. And what they started to do was started to frustrate Argyle, because they started to win a number of free kicks on this highest line. Whether they were fouls or not is irrelevant. They were given, and it started to frustrate the way in which we were trying to, play our game. They didn't allow us to get the ball down. But what they did really well to a man, I thought, was that they just got around the ball. They got runners in support. They were in the little 1v1 duels. Here's another foul that they picked up right, on our last line. And as they are feeling that they're getting back in the game, they're not working hazard at this point, by the way.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is no nonsense. We're just going to kick it forward. If you look at the moment here in the bottom left-hand corner, I think it's Argyle and Wimbledon just having a fight. Don't give it up. Seddon continues his run, puts Joe Edwards under pressure, and it returns a corner. And this was a catalogue of scenarios that were very similar as the first half unfolded. A game plan isn't just to, recycle, it's just get it forward. Get it forward, be direct, and as a result, you can play forward, and then you can pick up the second phases. I thought they picked up the second phases better than we did. I thought they were a little bit more physical than we were, and it wasn't recycle and go again. It was just put it back into that area. And as a result of putting it back into that area, what do they get? They get little knockdowns, but they also had a number of players just gravitating towards the ball, and it made it disruptive. It made it difficult to kind of get in any pattern. And look at our reaction to it. We're very indecisive. We're a little bit uneasy, and they're getting closer and closer to our goal. And as they continued, there was frustrations. Wimbledon starting to get a little bit frustrated. Another foul given against him, and you could just sense that something was coming. And Seddon here, what's the direction? Well, it's actually just to put it into that target area right on the edge of the box. Go as long as you can beyond the Argyle's back line, which he's about to do now. Kick it long, see what the keeper's made of. He comes here, kind of has a little bit uncertain of what to do with it. A little bit of a ricochet punch, helping it back into the area. I think the crowd sensed it as well, Charlie. There was an air of uncertainty and uneasiness about this. Connor Hazard does well there to steer it out for a corner, but I think Wimbledon felt the equaliser was coming, and this is the equaliser here. So Johnson, who I thought had a really good game for them personally, I thought he just kicked and headed everything. No nonsense. Well, all we're going to do is turn them. You can start to see that they're preparing to go. He's just going to help it into the area. Personally, I think Wimbledon should be the one covering around to head this. I think he's in a better defensive position than Joe Edwards, so maybe a little bit more responsibility to take it. Joe's not going to get much purchase there. And then Argyle in the middle, just out of shot there, ball into the box, back in the game, 1-1. And it just felt that after our first goal, that was the story of the half. And then they got their game plan back on track.